we will turn to our panel discussion about the agenda for clean energy transition on the European islands. And where are we going? Where can we go? What are the opportunities here? And so we want to delve a little deeper in that. And we brought together for that a great panel. And I'm going to stop presenting here and allow the panel to come on board. We have a great panel here. We have Mrs. Paula Pino, who's Director for Just Transition, Consumers, Energy Efficiency and Innovation at DG ENER of the European Commission. And previously, she's been head of unit at the DG Energy, where she was responsible for renewables and energy systems integration policy. So really, that's almost all the ingredients we need for a successful energy transition in one person. So welcome, Paula. We are grateful to have you here. Now, we have some other persons as well, although we're sure that Paula covers a wide range of these issues. We have Markku Markkula, who's Vice President of the Committee of the Regions. He's also Chair of the Espoo City Board and President of the Helsinki region. Sorry for that. Mr. Markkula, he holds several influential positions as Vice Chair of the EPP Committee of the Regions and the Chair of the EPP Committee of the Regions Task Force on Europe. He's also a rapporteur in the field of many innovations and a member of several high-level expert groups, such as the EU Smart Specialization Mirror Group. And he's a former member of the Finnish Parliament, which, as you will know, is ruling over the biggest collection of islands in the world. You know? So that's quite an authoritative position to start from. So welcome, Markku, and we're looking forward to your interventions.
Thank you. Let me just say that we have close to 200,000 islands in Finland. Half of them on the sea and the other half on the lakes in the countryside.
Yes. We won't be able to visit all of them, but we'll definitely come to some. Next, we have Giuseppe Schiaccia. I hope I pronounced that correctly, who is now the Executive Secretary of the Cpmr Islands Commission, and also the coordinator of the Cpmr Adriatic Ionian Task Force. And he has really a long expertise in island matters, and probably he has visited more islands in Europe than any one of us, or even perhaps than all of us combined. So welcome, Giuseppe, to bring the voice from the regions to our panel. And then last but not least, we have two special guests. And we thought this was very important, and we are very, very happy to have them on board. And it's from the Croatian ferry company, Jadrolinja. We have Marino Mlakovic, who is head of the Fleet Development Department, and we have Masa Zbunjak, who's the head of the legal department. And they will intervene about the decarbonization of ferries, also mentioned by the commissioner, which is one of the, as we said, one of the top 3 most impactful things we can do for the clean energy transition on the islands. And so welcome, Masa and Marino. We are very grateful that you could join us, and we are also very much looking forward to your statements. Now, we will now start the discussion in the panel. As also mentioned by Mr. Pichula, by the Commissioner Simpson, this year, and especially in the next months, is a very important period. And I know that the people of DG ENER are working non-stop and getting the Fit for 55 package ready. And it obviously will be essential for the ambitions of the European Union to move to the 55 target by 2030 and to net zero by 2050. And so these will be key to advance the clean energy transition. And so I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Paula Pino to say a bit more about this Fit for 55 package and what will be in there for the islands and how important will that be. So, Paula, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jan. Good morning, everyone. Really a pleasure to join you also in my new capacity and to be more closely involved in this extremely important initiative, to be working more closely with all the islands in the EU. It's really a pleasure, and to see the practical application of our policies and the practical application of decarbonization. And on your question, Jan, indeed, we are currently very busy preparing this Fit for 55 package. What is there for the islands? I would say that every single piece of this broad package which is being prepared, every single piece of it, every single legal proposal will concern also the islands. If we take, for instance, the proposal on energy efficiency, what we know is that in order to deliver the 55% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, because this is the framework, right? That framework is really what do we need to mobilize, what do we need to put into place in terms of regulatory instruments to deliver on such an ambition, then clearly energy efficiency will have a very important role. We currently have a target of at least 32.5% in terms of energy efficiency in the EU for 2030. We know we will have to increase it. So that's what we are now looking into in the legal proposal, and also to accompany it with a number of other very concrete policy measures which would allow for such an increased reduction in terms of energy consumption. If you look at renewables, obviously, there again, we would need not only to increase the current target of 32% in the final EU energy consumption. We believe that we would need a share between 38 and 40%. And at the same time, again, we would need to put into place very concrete policy measures to make this increased renewable energy deployment possible. And there, zooming in, we are looking, for instance, pretty much into transport areas in the measures in the area of transport, measures in the area of heating and cooling, which are responsible for most emissions overall, but also in islands, and you've already touched upon it this morning. So we will be bringing forward some concrete policy measures in the Renewable Energy Directive, which are linked to the EU strategy on offshore energy that the Commission had adopted last year, also on concrete actions following up on the hydrogen strategy, and on the energy system integration. We will, for instance, be looking at what is the best way to reflect the new integrated planning and permitting elements for offshore energy in order to bring forward the ambitious offshore renewable strategy. And here, obviously, islands will be very important in this regard. Looking into policy measures on energy efficiency, we are now really putting into legislation some of what had been foreseen last year in the renovation wave strategy, which foresees that we at least double the renovation rates in the next years. And here again, placing an integrated participatory and a neighborhood-based approach at the heart of the renovation wave will ensure that the islands and the island communities can take full advantage of their renovation potential. And then we are looking into legal instruments such as the emissions trading system, the effort sharing regulation, the energy taxation directive. These are all needed to strengthen the market and the price of carbon signals, so as to really help driving the investment in clean energy technologies. So clearly this shows that the above 17 million Europeans living on EU islands are really at the core also of this legal package that we will be presenting before the summer this year. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Paula. And indeed, this is shaping up as one of the most comprehensive and far-reaching packages that we've seen in the last decade. So I want to turn to Mr. Marcu and Mr. Sciacca. how, when you listen to all this, energy efficiency, renewables, hydrogen, system integration, renovation. I mean, are the islands ready for this? How when you look at that Fit for 55 package, how will this be taken on board for the islands? Perhaps Marco first.
Yes, thank you. Definitely, I need first to stress that there are very different size of islands, and especially if we think about the small islands, they very often face the physical separation from the rest of the municipality, and that makes it even more complicated, the situation there. But myself, coming from the Northern Europe, and as said in the introduction phase, so Finland is really the country of islands, but most of them are very small. And even in the case myself in the Espoo city, the second largest city, which in Finland, we are part of the metropolitan area. We have 165 islands. So, and there are some of those there. We have a very nice living areas. People live there permanently, so they are connected to the mainland and so on. So, but in all of those, so we want to stress as well, so this kind of very systematic approach, even in the smaller scale of islands. So we need to look. So it's partly the what is especially recent years has happened a lot on solar and wind. So it's partly that, but if they are part of the regional district heating system, and definitely electricity grids needs to be there in very good condition. So we need to take these new modern technology initiatives in active use, and on that, all of this development of this Fit 55, so that is really very crucial for we, the Committee of the Region. We stress the importance of that, and we support taking that into activities. But we need to see that in different parts of Europe, so the situation really differs, and that's why I very warmly welcome what you have done with this special EU effort on islands, and we definitely need to encourage islands all around, so to contribute and participate. We are of course happy that from the Baltic Sea as well, we have several of the, let's say, the big islands there from Finland, Åland Islands with their special autonomy situation. We have around the Åland, so it's really not only one island, but it's really thousands of islands there around. It's Tjökar, which is one of those very active ones. We have from Sweden, we have Gotland and so on. So we want to encourage that. And I'm as well now from the beginning of this year a chair of the Cpmr, a special Baltic Sea Commission working group on energy and islands. And there our one of our focus areas is especially promote the systematic approach to main energy production and distribution grids, heating and electricity, and the role of local production of energy infrastructures and storage in these grids, such as the wind and solar. So that's a good starting point, but we need to encourage this kind of collaboration. And on that, what you have already produced, the handbook. So that's one of the good steps forward.
Thank you, Marco. That's really interesting, and you already made the bridge to the Cpmr, and Giuseppe is ready also to looking at this Fit for 55 package, looking at all these islands in a great variety of sizes, population sizes, natural endowments. So how will you see this happening, Giuseppe?
Good morning, Jan. Thanks a lot for this very interesting question, and it is a pleasure for me to see also Mr. Marco Makula and to hear his quote regarding the Cpmr and our colleagues from the Baltic Sea Commission. Yes, Jan, islands are definitely ready because, as you know, as a whole of us, we can see each day is that the islands represent concrete laboratories when it comes to energy transition. So we are ready, but it is true there are a lot of efforts that we have still do, especially from the legislative point of view. So it was a pleasure for me to hear the kind of words and also very interesting words from DGNR, from the representative Mrs. Pigno of the European Commission about the work that the European Commission is doing when it comes to the revision of the key directives and also regulation, etc., that are quite strategical for the development of clean energy. And please be reminded the word cheap energy, because it is quite important for islands to have access to cheap and clean energy. So you quoted the work on the 54-55 package. I have to say that from our point of view, there are very important step that must be done, for instance, when it comes to the revision of the EU emission strategy system. For sure, maritime and aviation transport are quite important for islands, so we need to take into account that maybe we should introduce a very clear islands dimension when it comes to the revision of this emission trading, because of course for us it is important to promote the reduction of CO2 emission, but of course islands should benefit and not be hit by this revision. Coming back specifically to energy transition, of course the revision of the energy tax directive is quite important for us, because I said before, islands need for cheap energy. Cheap energy, it is a huge word today, because we know that islands have to face specific overcosts in terms of production, generally speaking. And this is also true, and especially true when it comes to energy. So, of course, the revision of the energy tax directive is important for islands. And last but not least, again, the amendment of the renewable energy directive, it is quite important for us, because we think that there is the room for more improvements when it comes to marine renewable energies, for sure, that are that have a huge potential for islands.
Thank you, Giuseppe, and I like very much this focus on cheap energy, because that's I sometimes say, you know, the first Green Deal that has been delivered is cheap renewable energy, and without it, it would become very hard to do the current, the Green Deal of this Commission, because this allows us really to move forward in a way that combines a sensitivity to prices that is obvious and natural for not only people on the island but also on the continent, and obviously the decarbonization and the carbon price signal that's important. Now, you touched already on ETS for maritime, and in a minute we will for that go to the people from Jadrolinia. But before we do that, I just want to follow up because, you know, when I hear a lot of technologies, and that's important, obviously, because these technology can really help us to get there. But it's not only about technology, I would imagine. And so the question there is, how will we associate and bring on board and empower the people from the islands, the island communities in that work? So how do we make the connection? And so there I would want to follow up. Mrs. Paula, if you can perhaps dwell on that, how does the Commission sees this? And also, Marco, how do you link this innovation with the islands? Because you were talking about, you know, innovation a lot, and it's also one of your specialties. So innovation on islands, how do you see that? And then Giuseppe, you can also comment on that. So let's do this round, follow up, and then we move to the maritime and the vessels and the ships in the next part of the debate. Paula.
Yes, thank you, Jan. Yes, how do we involve the islands? Well, this is a very, very concrete way of involving the islands, of listening to what island representatives have to say. And of course, the whole Clean Energy for EU Islands Forum is about this, is about really creating this dialogue and hearing what are the challenges, what are the barriers, which are specific to islands, and how can we best address these when we are preparing also legislation. I will also come back to this maybe later on in very particular instruments, for instance, now with recovery plans. But allow me also to say a word on the open consultations. All these pieces of legislation, all these proposals go through a public consultation, and it's extremely important that the island representatives do reply to these public consultations. But again, we have this one also privileged forum where we can really have this sounding board with you, where you can come back to us and make part of your specificities as islands in terms of allowing us to reflect us in our proposals. Now, one word also on the technologies, because I think that's very important to refer to. And from our point of view, there's no single solution when it comes to technologies. There's no single silver bullet technology. We will need a different combination of technologies. And also, as MEP Markula said, it all depends also on the various characteristics, of course, of the islands. Now, for instance, solar and wind power have already become mature technologies, which have a wide applicability on islands, and they can really be the main pillars of energy transition of the islands. But I'd like to give you a concrete example, because these examples, in my view, speak more than really 100 words about our policies. Take, for instance, Åland in Denmark, a Danish island, which is moving to a 100% renewable energy system based on local wind and solar resources. And the transition is aimed to be completed by 2025. So it's really a concrete, telling example of very concrete application of solar and wind power technologies. The Commissioner mentioned the example of Mallorca regarding hydrogen. There are further examples which can be mentioned. For instance, the Scottish Orkney Islands, which has one of the first demonstration projects introducing a fully integrated model of local hydrogen production, storage, transportation, and use for heat, power, and mobility. So really worth looking into what islands are concretely doing on the ground. And there's a lot which can be learned, a lot of good practices and best practices that can be further replicated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And indeed, the best practices is definitely something we take on board, and we will. It's a big focus to disseminate and to exchange the views on that. Now, Marco, on the innovation going on, because indeed, solar and wind, it's mature. We can all put up solar panels, put up a windmill, but then from there, we need smart systems. So.
Yeah.
How do we combine, small scale with smart?
Okay, that's a very important challenge that we really are facing. We, the Committee of the Region, we have just launched the special campaign on Green Deal Going Local. What does that mean? And it's not only about communicating that what is available, but it's really having and boosting the, let's say, broad scale societal innovation. So how the people, how the local businesses can contribute and participate. And when we say now that solar and wind is already well developed, so there is still a huge development on those, the wind turbines and their effectiveness, how much energy do we get out of those. So it's going on a huge reform inside that technology. And there we come that we need the integration with electricity. And many of the new developments, they need a lot of electricity. And that's really, as we have seen now with the climate the temperatures increasing, the huge influences of that. So that's a big financial issue as well. So there we need to have this more and more encourage the piloting activities. Let me take 2 examples here as well. One is from the Åland Islands, because there is already a lot of that kind of small, medium-sized industries, and a lot of our big international companies would like to contribute, collaborate with these local piloting to make them, after experimenting, make them a demonstration project and then scale up. Or the same is in between Finland and Sweden in the more to the central Finland and central Sweden, so Vasa area together with Umeå from Sweden. So that's especially the area where energy, manufacturing, energy industry, new battery systems, they are well in fast development at the moment with the universities of applied sciences, and that's the area where the tradition is to go to the islands, especially during the summer. And there is a lot of this kind of potential for this piloting. What does it mean for the local society of the people, how to integrate that? And there we come to the new role, kind of changing role of cities or the municipalities as well. So we are not anymore that much, let's say, administrative focused organization, but we are the one provide favorable conditions for the renewal. And on this, so we need these going local action plans. Piloting here, and that's with what your strong initiative, taking islands from different parts of Europe, so that can contribute a lot, so that we have really encouraged this kind of European-wide partnerships.
Thank you, Marco. Indeed, I like this pilot demonstration scale up. You know, this is really the kind of movement we want to see with the new technologies, and we will definitely also, you know, pick up on that on new renewable energy technologies like wave energy, which have not are not yet as mature, and then build on that. But so last comment, Giuseppe, on this, you know, moving from Fit for 55 technologies to, you know, organizing it on the islands, and also having sort of a coordination in place. So perhaps you from Cpmr, you can say something on that.
Yes, for sure. There was also a comment that I would like to do regarding the involvement of Highlands organization in all this process. I would like to stress the fact that, for instance, in 2017, during the first official forum, the Cpmr, I mean, was there, participate in this first edition, in that first edition of the forum. During and over these last 4 years, we were always supported DGNR, and also we endorsed the initiative and the objective of the Secretariat. So just to say that when it comes to the cooperation with the Islands organization, of course, the Cpmr, but also other organizations are there, like Green the Islands, Daphne. There are a lot of colleagues that work every day in favor of islands. There is Smilo, there is Association of the Ponant Islands. So we are all there. We have a daily dialogue with the European Commission, with the DGNR, with also other general direction, and our objective is the same, to support the development of the islands, for sure. So this just to clarify this point, because we will remain at the disposal of the European Commission and the Secretariat. Coming back to the 1 billion euro question, technologies, I agree with what the previous speakers said, because when it comes to technology, it is very important to understand about what type of islands we are speaking about, because of course the islands are quite different in terms of size, in terms of population, in terms of geographical position, etc. This means that they have different needs, and this means that the technology must take into account these different needs. The European Commission already quoted hydrogen. This is something that I would like to point out because, of course, hydrogen for islands represent the future. I mean, is among the technologies that are very interesting for islands. Why? Because there is a very interesting and ambitious strategy that have been launched by the European Commission. So we follow and we monitor the opportunities that the European Union is paving in order to promote the development of hydrogen in the islands. So money will be there. I mean, European money will be available in favor of the development of this technology. And again, according to our reflections, if we are talking about the future of islands in a post-COVID-19 scenario, we needed to talk about clean and cheap. Sorry for highlighting again this word, energy, and the development of hydrogen today could ensure in 10 years, I think, to reach this objective of cheap and clean energy. Last few words regarding another technology, a couple of technologies. Mrs. Pigno or you, I don't remember, Jan, quoted the key role played by wave energy, of course, and it is interesting for us today to see an example like the implementation of hulu motor technology, especially in the breakawaves infrastructure in the island ports. So today, everybody is reflecting on how to modernize or to renew the port infrastructure, especially in the islands, to allow electrification. So why do not merge a little bit the two objectives? The first objective is to modernize this infrastructure because, of course, there are a huge interest in terms of maritime transport for islands and also in terms of tourism in the future. We hope when the COVID-19 will be over. So why do not merge this new scenario of new port infrastructure with effective infrastructure that contribute to the production of electricity through this technology? And the last point, just to quote storage, because you already said the storage is crucial for islands in the future when it comes to the exploitation of renewable energies.
Thank you, Giuseppe, and I think indeed that gives a really good bridge to the next part of this panel, and there I would want to bring in our special guests, Marino and Masa, who can really tell us about how concretely, we talked about ETS for maritime, we talked about decarbonization of the ferries, electric, hydrogen, talk about port infrastructure, indeed very importantly, storage. So, but these are all, that's a tall order, and so we're very happy to have Marino and Masa, who could perhaps tell us, looking from a ferry company in Croatia, how do you start with this, and how do you see this developing in the future? What are conditions? How you get this also? And there was a question in the chat on that. The financing capacities of these ferries is not always great, and there's also a lot of them are subsidized. So how do we deal with that in this context where clearly the European Commission wants us to move to a carbon price in maritime in whatever shape or form it will happen, and decarbonization of the ferry. So Marino and Masa, please, we welcome you to the panel and would very much like to hear from you. How do you see this?
Hello. Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this panel. It is quite interesting. So we as the Drolenia shipping company, national shipping company in Croatia, we are the biggest company having ferries. So we are really looking into further development and renewal of our fleet, and we are facing actually problems that it is not, many things are not yet clear from a regulatory point of view. We are, let's say, looking into possibilities to build new ferries with that will be electrified. So for the islands that are on, let's say, quite short distance, within 5 miles from mainland, the solution that we see, technical solution, technology is to solve in the near future are islands that are more far on bigger distances, and there are technologies that are, in our opinion, not yet mature, ready to be implemented. So it will take some time before we will be able and ready to go ahead with new ships using these technologies. For those ships, we have looked into energy like LNG, but with this new direction of European Commission, it seems that liquefied natural gas is not anymore treated like alternative fuel, although we still have European direction dealing with this in force. There is European direction on deployment of alternative fuel infrastructure that we expect will be revised soon. So we expect to have much more clear direction what will be treated like alternative fuel. Because for the ships that have to operate on longer distances, renewable energy sources and technologies like batteries and things like that are not feasible, I would say. We will need too much storage capacity that is simply not effective. So in the mid-term solution, I think we need something that is similar to LNG. It is not perfect. We still have carbon emission, but until we reach the point that we have available and affordable technologies in sense of fuel cost, we have to find some middle solution, some kind of compromise between something that will come maybe in 10 or 15 years. And if we want to invest now in some new ship, we are really in big doubt what kind of technology we have to apply. That's regarding, let's say, this point related to technical aspect of transportation, shipping transportation. Of course, there are other things related to financing, and that's where we will need a lot of financial support from the government or some other institutions. Maybe Mrs. Masha can tell something about the aspect related to financing.
Yes, hello everyone. I would also like to thank for this opportunity for us to say something, let's say, from the field. Croatia, as you probably know, has submitted its National Recovery and Resilience Plan. So it's now in the revision phase, the first phase, and it has provided in it some opportunities for Jadrolinija or other shipping companies with regard to the building of vessels with this alternative fuel component. However, as we see it at this moment, there are several issues that have to be connected in order for the complete project. Let's just say only one ferry to be completed. We have it provides a financial component, but it seems not to be enough, not for the complete project, but only for the building of the vessel. So the port infrastructure is not prepared for this kind of project still. So these two things have to be connected in order to work. And we see it possible since not only the RRF financing opportunities are here, but also European Investment Bank has offers us this kind of possibilities. However, what we need on the field, we would need some, let's say, assistance. First of all, to assist maybe our ministries and our government with regard to a special project, because now this National Recovery and Resilience Plan has, as you also know, vast majority of project, and this type of project is only one amongst many. So I see this as an opportunity to develop and come with us on the field, so that this kind of project can actually be come alive, if you understand what I mean to say. And we hope that with this first step, such an opportunity we will be able to come to life. So this is the first thing we would like to say.
Great. I find this really, really very powerful what you say, and very exciting also, because, to see how, in the end, how difficult it is to have, the technologies which are, as we've heard, not yet mature on a longer distance, the financing which is there, but it needs still structuring, loans, grants, and so forth. How do you bring this together in one particular project? And then, the policies, looking beyond the vessel to the port infrastructure, to, the whole system that needs to be ready behind it, and the regulatory on that. So I find this is really what it is about. And if we want to succeed with clean energy transition in the transport to and from the islands and the decarbonization there, this is what we need to get right. And so I want to, this example that we've got here, I want to challenge Paula, Marco, and Giuseppe on this. When you hear this, how do we, how can we come and support? Because I find this very good. You have a national shipping company. They want to move forward. They want to align with the big policy orientations. So how can we help them getting this done? Paula first, and then Giuseppe, Marco. Yeah.
Sorry, just making sure I unmute. Yes. So how do we make that happen also? And obviously financing is key. And you know that with the European Green Deal as meant as really the EU's growth agenda, it's not just an energy and climate agenda, it's really a growth agenda. Unprecedented financing is being mobilized to some extent for the bad reasons of COVID, which mobilized even a much larger amount of financing, and really unprecedented financing that will be made available to invest in green recovery and in the clean energy transition, as well as in digitalization across Europe, but also on the EU islands. And as you know, the new EU multi-annual budget and the Next Generation EU foreseeing more than 650 billion of public financing for climate and energy over the next 7 years should really make a difference here. And for this, we have asked member states to prepare their resilience and recovery plans and to actually identify precisely where could such funds be invested, in which projects. And we are very encouraged to see from the plans that we have already received, and we're at about 17 plans out of 27. We already have some good examples. I'm thinking, for instance, of the Portuguese Resilience and Recovery Plan, which has earmarked 116 million euro to support the clean energy transition strategy of the island of the Azores in Portugal. I'm thinking of the Italian Resilience and Recovery Plan, which has earmarked 200 million euro for Green Islands component. And aims at that investments cover integrated energy, waste, water projects on 19 small non-connected islands, with an aim to achieve 100% green and self-sufficient models. I'm thinking, for instance, also of the Greek plan, which puts a strong emphasis on the electricity interconnections between the islands and the mainland. And in general, we can see that most of these plans have a strong horizontal component for energy efficiency in buildings and clean transport. And we go back, of course, to transport, which is of key importance for islands and ferries, and which has also already been taken up here. So clearly just one example, but one which will be extremely important, and we do believe will make a big difference. And of course, which goes in parallel with the technical assistance that is being given through the Clean Energy for EU Islands Forum. And in the first phase of the initiative, which came to an end last year, we provided assistance to 60 islands. And now we already foresee further direct support in the new phase until 2022 to another 40 islands. So just to give an example, and just a final example, the European Islands Facility, which was established as part of the Horizon 2020, and which provides islands also with financial support for very concrete renewable and innovation project development.
Thanks, Paula. And indeed, I like very much the examples you've given of the recovery plans, because that's really the big thing right now, and that's where the detail will be on how to spend that money, and you know, which part goes to assistance, which parts goes to innovation, capital expenditure, and so forth. So that's really the thing we will need to look after once they are all officially submitted, and you know, we get the details. And perhaps Markku, if you can tell on that from your point of view. You know, you've heard Marino and Massa on the challenges they're facing. So, you know, what can regions do, and how can they, you know, be helping with that money?
Sure. Let me say first thing that we need much more public and private partnership. So concrete collaboration, where as well the research and innovation development plays a crucial role. And that's why, if I now go very concretely, because that's what I know, I have partly energy background myself and the background with Aalto University in Finland, and how huge ship and ferry development there is in Finland because of all those islands. And we are like the whole Finland is like an island here up in the northern part of the EU. So we have the shipbuilding industry, both for the luxury cruises with thousands of people and daily connections between Helsinki and Tallinn in Estonia, or Helsinki, Turku, Åbo with the Sweden, Stockholm, and so on. So those, but there are small ferries connecting these islands regularly, because if I take Tjökar as an example, so they are 170 people living there permanently, but around 1,000 every summer. So the different ferry boats and others are needed. Or if I take Åland Island, which is totally 30,000 inhabitants. So it's really a touristic attraction, and tourism is one of their key role, mainly for Finnish tourists, but international as well. And what we could do and provide with the EU is we've already actually developed quite far this using the best available knowledge, partly to the private special focused company with a huge network of specialists, together with with universities and partly with the own national and regional financing. And if we want to link, there is now a special case study on hydrogen for ferry network going on already. It's a very concrete with the modern technology on that, and that would be one of those steps towards a 100 carbon neutrality. Or if we link that, as it is part of this broader scale kind of smart energy Åland project. So it starts with the of course solar and wind, but it's a renovation of older houses, how they are carbon free. It links that to geothermal heat wells or geothermal heat storage as well. These district heating systems were available, and where it's a natural step forward. So there's a lot of this, and we could definitely, this was a good step for me to join you, and so we will come back with the Clean EU Island initiative. So what we can do together, because we need more of this kind of concrete measures, how to organize that locally, kind of many parallel activities, which I know from my own city we are doing to be carbon neutral the whole city by 2030 already, but it needs around a dozen parallel activities ongoing. And then Åland Island is a good example on a much smaller scale, but similar activities. So let's make these to happen and do the collaboration concepts. Thank you.
Jan, you're muted.
Yes, sorry for that. It was the buzzword of 2020, and it's still going on in 21. You are muted. Anyway, Giuseppe. So how can we support the decarbonization of ferries and what we've heard here from Jadro Lindia?
Yes, thanks a lot, Jan. I will go very quickly because time is running out. Access to finance is, of course, a huge and very serious problem and a challenge for islands. Actually, I think that when it comes to this point, all of us know very well what are the solutions. But I was wondering if we have the political will today at European level to move forward and to exploit 100% this solution. Jan, you quoted before the very good example of the 8 Horizon Europe projects on decarbonizing geographic islands system. That is something very interesting, and we do look forward to see into the details about the result and the added value in terms of scaling up and replication of this project. So first message for me when it comes to access to EU money, EU finance is earmarking targeted calls for islands, basically to allow islands to have a direct access to EU money. There was another point covered by Mrs. Pino regarding the RRF plans. It is amazing because, of course, we can say it is good in the Italian plan. We have 200 million euro for energy transition project in 19 small islands, but there is very few reference to Sicily. Just a reference, if I'm right, on the opportunities to modernize the train network in Sicily to move towards electrification. Maybe nothing for Sardinia. So, and even when we look at the envelope, 200 million. So Italy is expected to receive 191 billion of euro for the plan. If we look at the earmarking for climate neutrality, meaning 37% of the overall budget, we are talking about 71 billion of euro that should be dedicated to climate neutrality, meaning also energy transition. And only 200 million of euro will land in islands for sure, because of course we have to look forward, or we have to wait for final implementation of the plan. 200 million out 71 billions means only 0.3%. Is it enough? Is it political will that come from the memorandum of split? Wishing to really enhance the energy transition in the islands? For me, this is a big question mark, and maybe we should reflect on this. So please, European Commission, now you are expected to assess these plans, try to focus on the territorial dimension and the highlands dimension of this plan. Last words very quickly regarding technical assistance, because I agree on what have been said. I would like to add just one point. The technical assistance is important also to put islands stakeholders into the condition to participate and to compete at the European level to get money from EU calls or EU tenders. So I remember very well that MEP Pizzula, when secured some money for the Secretariat, asked for a specific train for islands actors in order to participate in a European tender. I think that some islands today need this kind of technical assistance, because when we talk about access to money, of course, we should put islands into the same condition of other actors or regions across Europe that are the champions when it comes to EU tenders or EU call for projects. Thank you. Sorry, I was too long maybe.
Thank you, Giuseppe. Yeah, you asked the question directly, is it enough? And to be fair, that's not only a question to the European Commission, also to the member states, who will have a tremendous responsibility in using the recovery money in a targeted and a focused way. But the last word I would want to give to Marino and Masa, and yeah, is it enough? I mean, what you hear here in technical assistance, in finance, in support, can you do with it? And perhaps what would be your next step? What if you can, and you're speaking here directly to some of the very important people. So please use the platform to what your next step would be.
I think what we need is more clear policies and instructions. First, we don't know exactly very often how some kind of solutions will be treated in the future. And of course, we need some financial supports in order that we can go ahead with development of new ships. Financing is also not clear. I mean, there should be, or will be very good to have some dedicated funds, for example, for instance, for building new ships in line with this green policies from European Commission. Because now when we look, this is all mixed into general financing of all different aspects of Green Deal, let's say. No, it is too many diverse projects that can be, let's say, financed for some funds. I think it will be much easier if we would have some dedicated funds to which we can apply with much more clarity in sense of technology that we plan to use with very concrete projects. Actually, I think a lot of issues we have is just because of confusion that is around this possible financing of different projects. Let's say some dedication would help.
Thanks for that. And I don't know, Masa, do you want to add on?
Yes, I agree with Marino, but until the European Union can do something as complex as to maybe concrete the funds, it would be extremely helpful just to link companies like ours and to see who on the field can make a project work, and then just connect us with one person from the union that understands all these complex, the entire union with all its bodies and the entire legislation, since even for a person that is inside the legal sphere, it is quite difficult sometimes to handle all these, let's say, different parts that have to be involved for a project to work. You have port authority that we have to be connected to for this to work. They have all their sets of legislations. Then we are here. Then there are so many different subjects involved, and I think we need just that one person from the union that will say, okay, this is our project, we'll work with you. And I think that in this is just a simple, practical solution that would, I think, solve everything. Just the connection, yeah.
Thank you for that. And it's the Kissinger question, you know, when I need the European Union, whom do I call to?
Yes.
But I think it's fair to say there's a lot of things in transition, not only the energy system, also, as said, the legislation, as Paula mentioned, also the governance of the member state, the ports, as Giuseppe indicated, also the technologies, the innovations, as Marco indicated. So I think we had a very rich insight here, and I want to thank especially also Marino and Masa for their testimonial, because we want to make it as practical as this, because that's where the things come together. That's where we see the real obstacles and the challenges. And I mean, if I think, you know, we have an important project of common European interest running on batteries, and it's moving along very strongly, and it's going to give the car industry the batteries they need. and we have one on hydrogen as well, and that's going to start now, and it's going to deliver, the hydrogen that industry transport needs. And so I'm really curious to see how this will percolate through to the maritime, and how we're going to see in the next decade, the vessels, each time bigger vessels, being decarbonized. And I think your launch is a great challenge. Thank you for that. Thank you for all the panelists for their excellent insights, and also thank you for the people on the chat who asked some questions and that we brought into the discussion. So thank you again, all of you.